Hello, this is the Midday News. Thanks for joining us. Students and staff of Ward Street Primary School in the nation's capital this morning presented relief support items to representatives of the Mulitaka Disaster Committee in support of the ongoing support survivors. Rachel Lakani, Mulitaka Care Centers. School head girl Gila David also made a special address on the school's behalf. Madang's Milters Market has been closed since 2019 after a drunken brawl resulted in the death of a police officer. The market facility sits on land belonging to the Madang urban local level government. With plans to rebuild and reopen, a peace ceremony was held yesterday between the immediate community and comrades of the slain officer. The closure had been thought though on the many rural farmers on the outskirts of Madang who come there to sell their produce. For the last 5 years, the facility deteriorated. Madang Town Mayor Peter Yalsi supported the peace ceremony because he wants men and women from rural Madang to bring their cash crops to sell and earn an income. Madang Town opened 2 new infrastructure services this week, a welcome sight for local consumers, considering the lawlessness in the province over the years has seen a decline in investors. In addition, the challenging political situation and lack of parliament representation have an adverse effect on the population. There was a soft opening of Leon Hardware, with residents having options to hardware and home and office supplies. Importantly, Islands Petroleum opened a 24-hour fuel station to cater for the demands within and out of town. The service station sits directly opposite Leon Hardware. CEO for Islands Petroleum, Nathan Blewett, opened the service station. He said responding to the demand for fuel is a priority and that Madang is privileged to have been captured in the company's service delivery plans.
Now we come out of pizza problem inside of Papua New Guinea. So Islands Petroleum and walk out. They're making fuel supply and fuel supply reliability and come up #1 priority for the plant. Islands Petroleum.
USAID, in partnership with NGO Mas Kagina Tapani, short for Makata, has facilitated a conservation agreement with the Nivap Kirkur Uganken, Ninang and Gorkom clans in Khartoum, Papua New Guinea. This deed protects the endangered Western Pacific leatherback sea turtle by designating the nesting breaches as sanctuaries and promoting sustainable resources use. The signing ceremony, attended by community leaders, Madang provincial government representatives and the World Wildlife Fund, highlighted the importance of collaboration in conservation. USAID's Nino Narindas and Sumkar District's acting administrator, Charles Katu, praised the initiative's impact on biodiversity and community needs. Part of the Lookouting Ground program, this deed contributes to the protection of 57,942 hectares of ecosystem over the past 4 years. All Victorian state schools in Australia will embrace phonics from next year as the government tries to improve reading levels in prep to Year 2 students across the state.
A new approach to learning to read, and it's a real page turner.
We're going to do our phonics now.
From next year, all state schools will be expected to teach a system called synthetic phonics to help students simplify and decode words. And it's already proving popular at some schools.
We do see that growth of our students really quickly.
Say lamb. Without l, what's left?
Phonics will be taught from prep through to grade 2 for at least 25 minutes per day and aims to prevent vulnerable children falling behind.
Say cat.
Strong focus of the system is on sounds and letters, where words are broken down to their individual components rather than learning through immersion.
When schools move away from that to a more structured, explicit approach, then we see a significant uplift in children's reading and spelling performance, and also in many cases in student wellbeing.
There is only one clear approach, and that is to put phonics at the heart of your reading program.
It comes after more than a quarter of Victoria's students failed to hit new NAPLAN proficiency standards for literacy last year.
It is simply unacceptable that it has taken a decade for the Labor government to introduce phonics, evidence-based learning and explicit instructions in our classrooms.
Some principals are worried the explicit model could hurt students' love of literature.
The emotions are there. People have some very, very strong belief around what they are doing is working, but this is trying to get a greater balance.
Parents over time are going to see that there's going to be less need for them to be paying for expensive intervention and tutoring services.
Teachers are hoping the change will spell out a brighter reading future.
New species of flying pterosaur reptile was discovered in Queensland, Australia. Paleontologist Adele Pentland led the research team. She says the discovery is a major step forward for paleontology.
It's discovered by Kevin Peterson. He happened to be monitoring another fossil and was retrieving tools from his car when he spotted bone exposed at the surface and immediately identified it as a pterosaur. When I started my PhD, fewer than 20 pterosaur bones had been described from Australia, and they were all isolated one-off elements, which made studying them very difficult. This is more than twice as complete as the only other partial skeleton that's been reported from Australia. So when we have so many bones, we can actually learn a lot about the life of this individual. For example, this was a fully grown adult, and it had a wingspan of 4.6 meters. Pterosaurs are an extinct group of flying reptiles that lived during the age of dinosaurs. There's nothing like them today, but yeah, it gives me immense pride to know that this specimen is safe and it's also on display. So it's currently on display at Kronosaurus Corner in Richmond, Queensland.
The Brumbies are facing their biggest challenge of the season, travelling to Auckland to play the Blues at home in the knockout semi-final on Friday. No Australian team has ever won a final in New Zealand, but it is only adding fuel to the Brumbies' fire.
History books are against them. It's been more than a decade since the Brumbies have won at Eden Park, which is commonly referred to as the Australian rugby graveyard. But history doesn't always have to repeat itself, and that's the mantra the Brumbies are taking into this game.
We know that that's coming, but we also know more importantly what we're going to bring.
It doesn't get any bigger than this.
The Blues are best known for their physicality, particularly in the scrum, which was an area of weakness for the Brumbies last week against the Highlanders.
The majority of their game comes through their forwards, so a big forward pack, probably the biggest forward pack in the competition.
They've been sort of the benchmark team physically. And they impose themselves on every game they play.
But in good news, James Slipper makes his return from injury, bolstering the Brumbies' front row stocks.
He's one of our most experienced players, and you need experienced players in finals footy.
Larkham has also selected 6 forwards on the bench to give the side a boost at the back end of the game. Earlier in the season, the Brumbies had their biggest loss to the Blues, going down 46 points to 7. But since then, the ACT side has gone on to win 7 straight games.
It was a bit of a wake-up call for us. Physicality was really down last time we versed them.
If the Brumbies win and the Hurricanes lose to the Chiefs on Saturday night, then the ACT side will play in the grand final at Canberra Stadium next week.
We've obviously got our eyes on the prize, but before getting there, we've got to get over this hurdle, then we take our chances.
A real possibility with one big opponent in their way.
That ends the news update. Do join us at 6 tonight for the main bulletin. Bye now.